Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We got a nice sunny day here today, so we're gonna head into greenhouse 1 and start prepping for hanging baskets and bedding plants. We had a bit of a schedule issue last fall, and we had a new batch of pullets come in and their winter housing wasn't quite ready yet, so we had to make a game day decision, and the only available space that we had to put them in was unfortunately in greenhouse 1, which is our sale greenhouse. So they made a substantial mess in there, which means we got to get it all cleaned up here before the middle of March when our hanging basket stuff all shows up. And you can see we already got our big bales of dirt here, and there's another rest of the semi-load in the distance there. So as you can see, the inside of this greenhouse right now is very, very dirty. Chickens kicked up quite a bit of dust, and you can probably also see down along the bottom baseboards there, they've rooted up quite a bit of the dirt. So we're going to try to rake as much of that back in as we can to keep the wind from blowing in, and then once that berm of snow melts along the outside, we'll get a bunch of sand backfilled back in there and keep the wind from blowing in. And then we'll get these middle tables. We run a bank of middle tables. I think there's 7. They're all outside right now, but there's about 7 tables that come in along here, and then all the tabletops are just stacked along the edge here. And then yeah, we'll get the pressure washer fired up. We'll get all this sprayed down and get her all looking back like this. So if you guys are curious about these greenhouses, these are 25 by 70. They're slit tube greenhouses, local company here to British Columbia. Great family-owned company down in the Lower Mainland. We've gotten to know them quite well. Now that we've got two of their greenhouses, they've helped us with purchasing all new plastic and updating our fans, intakes, as well as the larger unit furnaces. We picked these greenhouses up down at the coast from an individual that was retiring. He had 2 greenhouse set up for a nursery as well. He was looking to retire, so we were able to pick these up. Shaylin and I and some friends went down. We tore them down, threw them on some trailers, brought them home, and then reassembled them. So we dug all the footings and set them all up. They're extremely solid. We get 50km/h plus winds here sometimes, and these things, they rattle, they shake, but they don't move, which is nice. The larger furnace here, we went with propane. It was originally set up for natural gas, but we changed the valving in there. Or I shouldn't say we had a professional do it. And we went from 150 BTU furnaces, 150,000 BTUs, to 300. These ones here are 300,000 BTU furnaces. So with the northern climate, it's way better. It just doesn't have to work quite as hard to keep this thing up to temperature, especially in the early spring when we got our baskets and bedding plants in here. We don't want the furnace working too hard. So with that said, let's get the cleaning. So when we get our plugs in every year for our hanging baskets, everything comes in cardboard boxes. We're gonna save that this year, or that's from last year, but we're gonna use that. We're gonna lay it all underneath these tables because we get some weed pressure that comes in along the bottom side of these tables. So we're gonna take all that cardboard, we're gonna lay it underneath all the tables on both sides. Hopefully we have enough. And then we're gonna probably lay a bit of bark mulch on top of that to suppress the weeds even more. And then we'll bring in some topsoil to top dress everything in the middle, just to tidy it up a little bit and cover up some of that dust. And then we'll start to wash.
Let's get started. Real good.
All right, so this job's been a lot dustier and dirtier than I expected it to be so far. But you can see we got kind of all raked out here. Looks pretty good. We'll get a little bit more material in here, clean this up just a little bit more, level things up. Kind of want it to be nice and easy for people to walk through. So I got a bunch of the cardboard laid around the bottom. I am a little short at the front there. And then where I removed that fridge is gonna get moved down to the nursery, and we're gonna use it to store our seeds this year. They've never really had a home in the past. So it'd be nice to get them kind of in a more controlled environment. We can organize them for easy access for anybody looking to do some seeding. And then I'm gonna have to bring in a bit of material here because it's still pretty low. But I think we're at a good point. I think we'll get the hose strung out and we'll get that pressure washer fired up and start washing all this dirt off.
Let's get started. Oh, that's real good.
All right, so we managed to get this thing all cleaned up. Night and day difference. Looks a lot better. There's a couple spots here down at this end. I was concerned about this just because of the inflation fans. So these greenhouses run a double layer system. So there's 2 layers of plastic, and then we have these small inflation fans in the corners. So you can see here. So these blow, well, they pull the warm air from in here and pump it between the 2 layers and inflate it. So you get a little bit of an R value between the 2 layers of plastic. So this one here crapped out on us. I'm assuming it's full of dust. And then you can probably see this has already been sprayed, like all this plastic above me here. So this end of the greenhouse is quite a bit dirtier still than the far end, because it would have been pulling in all the dust and pumping it between the 2 layers. I was worried about that. Super unfortunate, but like you say, there's nothing that we can do about it. It's gonna be pretty gross, but is what it is. Probably took a year off our plastic. You got to replace it every, I believe it's like 4 to 5 years. So unfortunate, but is what it is. So we'll let this dry, have a quick bite to eat, and then we'll start seeing if we can get some mulch and maybe those tables in here too. All you electricians out there, plug your ears. A little bit more pressure washing in the fan. It now works. Probably change it anyways, but she's spinning for now. All right, well, it turns out that both those piles are frozen, so I'm gonna have to wait for a few more warm days before we can get any of that other material in here, the mulch and the topsoil for the middle. Tables are also frozen still in the snow. It's supposed to stay, I think, above freezing for the next 3 to 4 days, so it hopefully doesn't take too long. So we're gonna end the video here. Just wanted to touch on it quick here too, that I don't want to discourage anybody from putting chickens in a greenhouse. I do think it's a good idea, and I have done it multiple times. But one thing I would recommend to avoid the dirt pumping in between your 2 layers of plastic, if you run a real thick layer of bedding in here, like 6 to 8 inches of straw, it'll help drastically reduce the amount of dust. I just didn't have time for that this year, or should I say in the fall. It was a bit of a rush game day decision kind of thing. I regret it, but you can avoid it. So if you're gonna run your chickens in your greenhouse in the winter, thick layer of bedding, shavings, straw, what have you. And then the other thing you're gonna wanna watch for, and I have made the mistake before, where is one? Right here. You'll see that if you don't anticipate putting metal meshing around the perimeter of the greenhouse, the chickens will jump and scratch and poke holes through your layers. They do make a pretty good tape to fix this, but that's the other thing you're going to want to do. You can run your chickens in here, but I would suggest running hog panels down the entire perimeter of the greenhouse, and I would bring them up if you can. I'd get like 4 or 5 footers and bring them right up to this hip rail, because they will jump. So you can do that. We've actually installed that on our range coops, because they're also plastic, a white plastic, but we've done that to help that last a little bit longer. So those are just a couple things I think that would help if you do decide to run your chickens in your greenhouse. I do think it's a great idea. It beats having a building sit empty all winter, and you may as well keep it full if you can. So I hope that helps. So make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll hopefully pick it up where we left off once things warm up a little bit more. We'll see you in the next one.